Welcome to Rock and Blues Review. I am so happy today to have as my guest one of Canada's greatest cultural ambassadors. He's a Grammy and nine-time Juno Award winner, the multi-talented Colin Linden. Welcome, Colin.
Great to be here, Bob.
I am very happy to have you. We have met a couple times in the past. I was at the Kitchener Blues Fest. We chatted, and one time many years ago, you came to the Canal Bank Shuffle with Paul Reddick, and we
Yeah,
we had a short conversation there, and that was a thrill for us to have you come.
that was a great gig. I remember it well. And I mean, Kitchener Blues Festival was one of my favorites I ever played.
Yeah, that was fun. It was Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. It was a fantastic show, as usual.
Okay, yeah, that was actually really good too. We played there, just me and John Diamond and Gary Craig and I played there in 2024, I think, and it was one of my most favorite gigs
Oh,
doing
that
that.
very
Yeah,
recent.
I remember the Blackie gig was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the first things I remember about you many years ago was reading about you and Jeff Healey having this incredible musical knowledge. How did that start in the first place?
Well, it's just something that always the history of the music always interested me so much, and I remember the first day that I met Howlin' Wolf when I was 11 years old. He said to me, you want to learn my music, listen to the people I listen to." And he told me about Charlie Patton. He told me about the Mississippi Sheiks. He told me about Blind Lemon Jefferson. So I began to dig into all of those artists and their music, and I found that not only did that also fascinate me, but I truly loved it. And so it just got deep that way. And remember, I'm 65 years old. When I was coming up, so many different types of roots music were woven into the fabric of popular music at the time. So if you turned on the radio, you could hear, I mean, just listening to the band, listening to a song of the band, you hear blues, you hear folk music, you hear country music, you hear rock and roll at its most pure expression. It goes so deep in so many ways. And so, you know, uh, I was just fascinated. I wanted to learn everything I could. And I also found that the people who make the music are as interesting to me, or they're tremendously interesting as well. So you want to know about them.
Yeah, it's amazing you were so young, though. And you got older brothers. Did they help you along the way in that?
Sure did. When you're the youngest of three brothers, you get a chance to go places a little earlier than you would maybe normally get to do. And they were both very good about letting me tag along. And we all had really deep musical interests. My middle brother, Harley Lee, uh, had a band for years, for a number of years at one point, in the mid 70s, at the beginning of the sort of outlaw country movement. And he played Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, all of that stuff when it was really fresh as an idea. And he also was a musicologist. He dug in deep. He wanted to learn everything he could about that. And my eldest brother is still a great singer songwriter, and pretty profoundly influenced by the Texas School of Songwriting, Townes Van Zandt and Guy Clark and that whole world, but also, even back then was, interested in, Tom Rush and Eric Anderson and a lot of the singer songwriters of the time. So we all had, uh, and we all liked each other's music. And so, the last year that I lived at home, or not really the last year, but I remember one year in like 1975 when I was still at home and I was 15 and my brothers were playing in a band together. um, I would be in one room of our basement practicing learning West Coast Blues by Blind Blake. And then my brothers would be rehearsing in the next room over, learning every song from the Waylon Jennings Dream in My Dreams album. So I found that this, especially once I moved to Nashville, which was in at the end of 1997, um, a lot of that, a lot of that musical information, I absorbed a lot of it by osmosis, and I found that it actually was very valuable for me.
Yeah,
in the ensuing years.
I can imagine. Is like I said, I mean, everyone seems to know about you, but you also understand the cathartic properties of that music. And was that something that started right away?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From from the first second I heard the wolf, I knew that it was a deeper vein, or it was as deep a vein as I could have imagined, and that was not lost on me a bit. And I think all the music that he directed me to had that component as well, which I think is maybe why I still feel like the great country blues is the is still sort of the backbone of what I do.
Right. So that was a meeting with Howlin' Wolf when you were very young.
Yeah, and I got to know him. He came to Toronto pretty frequently in the last few years of his life, and he always took time for me. So
Oh,
I feel
nice.
extremely fortunate that I got to spend time with him.
Yeah, nice. Well, now you are on your Ride On tour. And
Yes.
what inspired you to do this tour right now?
Well, I last year I started the year, and the record hasn't come out yet, but I sometimes pour over my own records for a while, and there was a bunch of new material, and I felt like it was some kind of turning point. And the record isn't out yet, I should say. It's hopefully it will be out this fall some point, but whenever it comes out, I'll be happy. This celebrates the beginning of my second half century
Ah,
as a traveling musician, and so I call it the Ride On Tour 2025 through 2075, uh, because it blows my mind that it's been that long.
right.
uh, and I still love performing so much. Last year, I think some of it was by design and some of it was circumstantial. I ended up doing a lot of live performing. I did. I think I did 35 solo shows, which for me is really quite a lot because for the last many years, I've you know, you know, spent a great deal of my time in the studio and also backing up other people, over the years, lots of them. So it was really wonderful to do that. And I just felt like for the rest of my life, as long as I can do it, I want to be performing my own stuff. I want to not let that, you know, fall into the back seat.
Right. You mentioned collaborations, and I want to get back to that in a second. But the tour now for us, we're in Niagara. You're going to be in St. Catharines on March 24th at the
Yep.
Warehouse. And Blow was your last album, and it was your first electric.
Sort of. It was the first record that I made that really focused on electric blues. I mean, the songwriting was not, well, I guess it was somewhat different, but it was sort of more of a natural evolution. Has always been a component of what I do. But I started that record, I was working on some stock music for a television show. And I came up with a number of pieces of music that were just musically driven, not even necessarily lyrically driven. And as a songwriter, I'm definitely more someone who the lyric will tell me what's going on. But with this, I had composed this music and recorded it. But with not each of the pieces, but with about half a dozen of the pieces that I had come up with for this television show, they really felt like songs to me. And I thought, and I came up with titles for them, and I kind of knew how they would sing a little bit. And then when the pandemic started, I kind of thought, okay, this is time to finish this record. And so that was sort of the backbone of that. So it ended up being an electric blues record, not because I wanted to make a musical, left turn or right turn or anything like that, so much as I had come up with this music that I was very excited about. And it kind of called me.
Nice. All right, so let's talk about some of the collaborations now. Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, fantastic band. Your last album, Oh Glory, beautiful album. But
Thank you.
what uh, inspired you to ask Stephen Fearing and Tom Wilson to be with you in that band?
It was definitely divine intervention. I can tell you that. We have more than one origin story, but this is my version of it, and I got a pretty good memory. So basically we got together to do the music of Willie P. Bennett because Willie was a great friend to all of us and a great inspiration and a mentor to all of us as well. I played guitar with Willie since 1982. And certainly in the 80s, it was playing with him was one of my, you know, I played with him a lot. We did a lot of gigs, and I had already been a fan and a friend of his for a number of years by that point. And we all had record deals. I mean, I was on Sony, and Tom Wilson was on Sony. Stephen Fearing was on True North, and we all kind of thought that we wanted to do a tribute album to Willie. My wife and I were sitting around the table, and we kind of thought it would be great to do a tribute album. You know, tribute albums were real popular at that point, and we thought it'd be great to do a tribute album to Will, even though he was not that well known. Um, but it would kind of, you know, be sort of a novel thing. And then also it was sort of the beginning of tribute bands, and kind of thought, oh, well, maybe we should just think of it as a tribute band, but instead of, you know, like the Blushing Brides, who were you know, tribute to the Rolling Stones, and I think there was a tragically hip tribute band at the time. Let's do a tribute band to somebody who not that many people know, but who's really great. And that was our idea. And the very same day that we were sitting around talking about that, I get an email in the early days of email, I must note, from Stephen Fearing, who who said, "Hey, let's get together and do some kind of project with Willie's music." Totally out of the blue,
Really?
and then he and I was very excited by that, and we met up and spoke about it, and we were both very excited. We both kind of thought, "Oh, let's call Tom." I had known Tom since I was 16, and knew that Tom was both a friend and fan of Willie's, and even though he was in a Junk House at the time, where Junk House was a big band in Canada, we thought maybe he would join us. And it took one phone call and this, whatever you want, I'm there.
Yeah.
And 30 years later, I mean, it was going to be a one-off thing. And 30 years later, we're still great friends and an ongoing developing, I think, vital band.
Yeah. I just finished reading Tom's book, Brutally Honest, and a really good read. Of course, he has high praise for you and thanks. What about you? Book on your horizon?
You know, my wife is a writer, and she encourages me to do that, and I'd like to, mostly because so many of the people who were there for me and who were inspirational to me when I was coming up, so many of them are gone now.
Mm,
And you know, every day that goes by, there are fewer people walking around who knew the Wolf, or who knew Sam Chapman, or who knew Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, or who knew Son House. And I was fortunate, Blind John Davis, you know, Peg Leg Sam, Henry Townsend. I was fortunate to get to know some of those people real well, and be around them. I mean, I think about that in context even this week. You know, we've lost John Hammond a few days
mm,
ago,
right.
and Roy Bookbinder just a
Right.
couple of days later.
Yeah.
And both of those guys were huge in my life. John got me my first gig.
Really.
Pardon me, not my first gig ever, but my first major festival. He was the one who told Mitch Podolak at the Winnipeg Folk Festival when I was 15. He said, "You got to get this guy to come and play here."
Nice.
And Mitch said, "Sure, okay." And that was how I ended up doing that.
There's a chapter right there. You're all set.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great book, and it was interesting to read all that. And his memories, I think, were similar to yours, at least in the Blackie portion. So let's talk about some of your other collaborations. And now, I remember when you and Colin James and Jeff Haley first arrived on my scene, and you guys, I think you brought in a big change in Canadian music, you three in particular. Did you feel that too?
Well, I felt that we were all mining some kind of territory that was really rooted in blues, and we all loved the music deeply. And you know, both Colin and Jeff had you know, all three of us have sort of different strengths and different skill sets and all that. And I must say, we enjoyed. I mean, Colin and I have been friends since I was 17. I was on my first tour of Western Canada, and I left the day after my 17th birthday, and I met him a few days later and he was not even 13.
Wow.
And we've stayed friends consistently throughout all of that time. And he's one of my very dearest people. He's as talented as any human being I've ever met. And Jeff was, and what can you say about Jeff Healey? He was so brilliant and so unique in so many aspects of his life. So we all enjoyed each other's company. And I think we were all trying to do something to bring honor to the blues.
Right. I was fortunate. I've interviewed Colin a few times and recently for this, and I actually got to talk to Jeff too a number of years ago. And like I said, for me, that was a big change. And you and Jeff, with your knowledge, I remember just being so impressed by that. So, what about Bruce Coburn, another collaboration of yours?
I was a fan of Bruce's from when I first moved to Canada. When I was 10, at the end of 1970, my brother Jay bought his first album, had gone to visit a friend of his, and had got turned on to Bruce's first album, and he brought it home, and we listened to it and absolutely loved it. So he was somebody who was huge in in my family's life from real early on, and loved his music. Loved, I mean, he's so unique and all that. And I got to know him a little bit in when I was in my teens. He was encouraging to me. We would do folk festivals together, and he would be, he was very thoughtful and very encouraging. And I had heard he really liked an album, my third album. It's called When the Spirit Comes, which, by the way, was the record I was touring when I last played a solo show in St.
Oh
Catharines
boy.
in '88.
Wow.
And so looking forward to coming back. But I had heard that Bruce had liked it, and it really meant a lot to me. And in 1991, he had just finished making a beautiful record called Nothing But a Burning Light that T-Bone Burnett produced. And I get a phone call. I had been traveling a lot of different places, and I came back home after working on an album project for a couple months. One of the early records I produced for a guy named Hans Tasik, European blues artist. I got home and I thought, I don't know what's coming up. I've been putting all this energy into Hans's record, and now it's done. And I got home and phone rings. It's Bruce Coburn.
Mm.
You want to play guitar with me? I want to put together a band with another guitar player, and it'd be great if you would help me out.
Wow.
And that's how that started. And that was 35 years ago. And we continue to work together. We just finished his newest album at our studio in Nashville at Pinhead Recorders. And we made his last record there. And over the years, I guess I was in the band for 4 years after that. And since then, I've produced all but one of his records. So
Wow.
I've done all but one of the records in the last 30 years.
Wow. Which brings me to another fellow who I really enjoyed and got to see a few times, luckily, is Leon Redbone. Now, you worked with him too.
I sure
What
did.
was he like? Because he was such an enigma.
He was exactly as he appears, and those things it's sort of a more nuanced thing perhaps than if you would just see him perform, although really not that much different. Uh, he was always extremely kind to me. I first met him when I was 12. I did a guest set when he was the feature act at Fiddler's Green Coffee House, August 28th, 1972.
Wow.
And and he was, I kind of tried to approach him as if he was an approachable, as if, just I was just being me. And he was he was nice enough, but he wasn't overly talkative. And then when I got up and played, I saw him peer his head around, and he listened to me play. And then and he was really nice to me, and um, we had a lot of common interests. He showed me the way to a lot of different music. And then when I was 18, I got to tour with him for a few weeks. I was subbing in. He was looking for he was actually looking for a clarinet player, and he had fired a trombone player and a banjo player. And he wanted somebody to fill in who knew the songs, who could play solos. So when I was 18, I guess maybe 13 or 14 shows with him, and it was a great pleasure. And then just before he stopped performing, I ended up doing another I did 3 shows with him in Nashville, 2 shows in Nashville, and one in Birmingham, Alabama. Then I did 2 nights with him at Hughes Room, and it was really wonderful to get to play with him again.
Yeah, I really enjoyed him, and he was he was so cool. It was hard to believe he actually got up and came to the show. And the other thing was, we really had to clap and stomp to get him to do an encore. He wasn't really interested.
Yeah, I think he was. I think probably, and this is nothing that I ever heard him say to me or anything, but I would say that one thing about Leon is he's what you might call a classicist, and I think that he, in terms of being, you don't do an encore unless they really, really want it. That was the traditional way. It's not something that's
Right,
given.
right.
So, and that's me. That's completely my own interpretation, by the way. That's nothing I ever heard him say. But it wouldn't surprise me that that would be the way that he would have been, because you know that would be an exceptional thing to do that instead of a typical thing.
Yeah, that was a great show. And I just want to mention too one other guy who you worked with, and that's Keb Mo, because
Yeah,
uh, he is fantastic, obviously, but there's something about him, and he's so charismatic from that stage. What is it about him that just draws the audience in so quickly?
I think he has a genuine, absolutely unmitigated humility, and I think that he radiates that. He radiates the respect he has for his audience and for his music, and the warmth that he projects is 100% genuine. And I think that that's one of the many things that make him a really exceptional performer and an artist. And he came to blues later in life.
Right.
He started off being more of a sort of a pop R&B artist, and then got a gig doing a play about Robert Johnson, and it totally fascinated him. He had had a little bit of a background in blues. He had played for, I don't know for how long, but he had played for a period of time playing an electric band with Papa John Creech. And so that was kind of the first intro. And then doing that Robert Johnson play really ignited his spark for that.
So that brings us back to you. Obviously, now that you've had so many successes and so many collaborations, it's understandable when someone wants to work with you. But how did you project that ability of collaboration so young?
Just because I love to play so much, and I wanted to back people up because I heard my brother was an excellent accompanist. He backed up singer songwriters, and I saw him do that, and he was really good at it, and it came very naturally to him. And it kind of did. I always kind of admired the guitar player in the band, whoever it might be.
Right.
Um, so playing with other people uh, allowed me to play more, and I loved playing so much, and that kind of evolved its way into being a producer as well. My friend Morgan Davis,
Right.
real early on, who's still a great friend, and Morgan was doing demos, and uh, this was in Toronto in the late '70s, I think. Uh, and he said, whenever I go into the studio, they make me turn the reverb off on my amp. They make me turn my amp down, and I'm never happy with the tone. He said, you always have a good time whenever you get to go to the studio. Would you come in with me just so I can have a good time
Right.
too? That's really how it started.
Really.
And same thing. I just love making records so much um, that if there was ever a chance to be involved with playing on a record, and that evolved into producing records or being involved with making records, I just wanted to do it.
Cool. Now, my absolute favorite movie of all time is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And you, of course, got to work with T-Bone Burnett and the Coen brothers on that one and another movie, Llewellyn Davis, right?
I worked on Lewin Davis a little bit, yep. And I worked on Intolerable Cruelty. The
Oh,
T-Bone didn't work on that, but I actually had an acting role
oh,
in that, and played the end credit music, and played a couple of Simon and Garfunkel songs in the course of my role in it. So I worked with the Coen brothers a few times, and I worked with T-Bone a ton.
What is it like working with Cohen and T-Bone?
Well, the Coen brothers, uh, I always felt, I mean, I felt like when I first met them, I had a great deal of, they were very comfortable to hang around with. And they were, of course, tremendously funny. And we just, they felt like family to me. It was like, they were really a lot like my brothers in terms of their sense of humor and their kind of, uh, the type of irreverence and humor that they have really reminded me of my brothers. And we felt really comfortable hanging out together from the very beginning. And when I've worked with them, I found that the way that they approach it reminded me a lot of how I like making records, and also how T-Bone likes making records, which is to not belabor something, to pay attention, but to have kind of enough faith in the process, and to maintain a kind of a spirit of having a good time when you're doing it. So I found that, that's true with the Collins. It's also really true with T-Bone.
No, that's cool to hear because yeah, I love their stuff. I love all their stuff. That is my favorite for sure. But getting back to T-Bone for a second, so now you are working with him on your second Ringo Starr project.
Yeah, I got to play guitar on. I don't know how. I played on probably about 6 or 7 songs fairly early on into the process, so I don't know which ones made the record and all that yet. I haven't figured out, but yeah, that was fantastic, and I got to play on one song on the previous Ringo record, and that we did around the same time. We did an album that I co-produced with T-Bone for him, called The Other Side, that got nominated for a Grammy. And we did most of it. We did the lion's share of that at our studio at Pinhead Recorders. And just, it was such a great time working on that. One unforgettable. And but every chance I get to work with T-Bone is like a lesson in my job, and and also just real joy.
Now, you have been the music director with ABC's Nashville since it started. How different is TV from movies from records?
Well, TV is definitely a different thing, and my role, I should clarify what my role was. Sort of multifaceted, but it was I've been the MD for all of the live touring that the Nashville cast has done, including a reunion tour that we just got back from about a little over a week ago. Um, but my role started, once again, it was T-Bone who was the original executive music producer of the show, and T-Bone got me to play on stuff, and on the recordings, and then got me to coach the actors, because I played basically. I usually was the one to play their parts in the studio, and all of the actors were musicians,
Hmm.
but we wanted it to look perfect, basically, for TV. And so I coached them, and then once again, T-Bone said, "Look, we need somebody. We need boots on the ground to supervise every music shoot." And so my job became. I say not. It's not the music supervisor, because that's a different role, but I supervised the music shoots for it. And then after T-Bone kind of passed the baton to Buddy Miller in season 2, um, Buddy, said, "Look, I just want you to play on all the sessions and do all the other things." And that kind of, I just got very deeply involved in the music, and had still continuing wonderful relationships with all of the actors, who are all very good musicians, and we've become sort of like a band unto ourselves.
Hmm. Well, that's interesting. I've had guests who say they were, exhausted after putting themselves out there for, creating an album or a tour. Just uh, and they put so much of themselves, especially into a recording and writing. And then I've had others who say, it's like another job. You do it and you move on. Where do you fit on that spectrum?
Well, to me, I like to think of everything that I do as being an inclusive step forward. So instead of being in a band with my closest of friends, Johnny Diamond and Gary Craig, which
Hmm.
I am,
Hmm.
after, with Gary, it's been 42 years.
Really?
So it's almost like you don't. shut the doors, you keep opening new ones without shutting the old ones. And I guess for some people that's hard to do or not desirable to do. But for me, it's sort of like um, I continue to love all the people I love, and I continue to love working with all the people I love working with. So it being a bigger circle is, I think, a way of maintaining your own growth and your own ability to learn more stuff and get better at what you do, without necessarily turning your back on things that you have been a part of in the past.
So are there any projects that you would love to do you haven't done yet?
Oh yeah, tons. I want to play with Keith Richards while we're both still around, even if it's sitting in a back room somewhere and playing guitar together. And um, I know Mavis Staples a little bit, and I would love to work with Mavis. So that would be a great thing.
My wife would be
There,
happy. She loves Mavis.
yeah, me too. Me too. The greatest spirit you could ever imagine. There's so many.
That's
There's so.
interesting because John Primer I talked to a few weeks ago, and he wanted to, and he had been with the Stones once before, and he said he wanted to get back there one more time, and lo and behold, a week later he was. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah,
That's fantastic. Well, I've played with I've played with Daryl Jones, the bass player, and I've played with Chuck Leavell before over the years. Who plays keyboards with them,
right,
um,
right.
and and I just get the sense that they're still, one of the reasons they're still such a huge, important band is that they continue to do it for real. They're not fooling around, even when they're fooling around. So, um, but I mean, there's so many people who I would love to play with, young and old. And I feel very fortunate when I've had a chance to play with people I've wanted to. I mean, for so many years, the thing I wanted to do more than anything else was play with Bob Dylan, and it took me until I was 53 years old to do it. But I played for a good deal of a summer with him in 2013, and it was just wonderful. I loved it.
But I imagine that was something because I mean, obviously not everyone gets to do that. And so, yeah, I saw that in your bio, and he was one of the guys I had wanted to mention. So, how did that come about, and what was it like?
Well, I think that I had been sort of there had been some people in his camp who knew that it was something I wanted to do, and my name had been kind of thrown into the hat a few times. And someone had been in his band and quit without a whole lot of notice in the summer of 2013, and he happened to be coming through Nashville. And Bob was is probably still a fan of my friend Buddy Miller, and he asked Buddy if he wanted to come out and fill in for the basically for the rest of the summer. And Buddy had just become executive music producer for Nashville and said, "I can't do it, but I have a friend who might be into doing it," and that's how it ended up
Hmm.
happening. And I guess I know that a lot of people have come and gone from his bands, but I think I had a really a wonderful experience doing it. So uh, you know, it was. I mean, he was just great. He was just. there's no surprise even aside from being you know the most superior songwriter of our time, or probably any time. Um, so much about his musicality and his focus um, and his ability, his band leading ability. He's great in so many ways. Maybe more than he even gets. I think he's kind of underrated.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, but again, it's a testament to your abilities and reputation, which is substantial, but you'd kind of stay in the background a little bit. And I think I mentioned to you when we first spoke that, uh, I had talked to Tom Hambridge quite a while ago, and he was my first interview on this show actually. And
Oh, great.
I love Tom; he's great. And
Me too.
and he mentioned that you worked with him on James Cotton's last recording,
Yes. Yeah.
and that must have been something else too.
Oh, unforgettable. Unforgettable. It was just. it was a beautiful thing. I'm so glad that Tom called me to do that. And James was just the track was that one Bonnie Blue, and it was just the two of us, and it was great. It was
Yeah.
really a great.
Yeah, Tom had nothing but good things to say, and I could tell he genuinely enjoyed working with you too. And you two are two of my favorite behind the scenes guys. I mean, your resumes together are unbelievable.
Well, his resume is pretty fantastic, and with good reason. He's really, I think Tom has sort of tapped into the ability to, especially with artists who are not fundamentally songwriters. I think he draws the personal out of people when he writes with them, and he allows people to tell their own story. He never sort of forces what a song is going to be, and it's a wonderful. I think it's a testament to his character as a human,
Yeah, he's a
is that
really,
he's really good guy, really supportive and perceptive.
yeah, very nice, down to earth. I love his band too.
Yeah,
The Rattlesnakes, they're a lot of fun. We're almost out of time, so I want to get back to your show here for our local Niagara fans. You're here on the Warehouse Concert Hall on March 24th, and you can get tickets online uh, and online on your site as well, I believe.
yep, I think so.
Yeah. So for sure, we got to get out to that one, and I'm definitely going to get the word out around here as much as I
Thank
can.
you so much, Bob.
No problem. It's been a real pleasure, and I want to thank you again for doing this. It's been great.
Great pleasure for me too. Thanks for your interest in this stuff.
Oh, no problem. I couldn't believe when I saw that you were coming to St. Catharines because, I thought, oh, perfect. I have to talk to Colin. So I'm glad you agreed to this.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right.
My pleasure. And I'm looking forward to playing St. Catharines. Like I said, I haven't played St. Catharines. Blackie did a show there not that long ago, maybe in 22. But the last time I did my own music in St. Catharines was at a club, and I forget what it was called. It was in 1988,
Wow.
a long time ago, and I think maybe six people showed up, and I had fun though. Uh, so hopefully, hopefully those six people are now. They've all had kids, and those kids are old enough to come out to the shows, and maybe they've had grandkids since then, and they're probably old enough to come out to the shows. So hopefully, maybe we'll have a real nice turnout. Is what would be great.
All right. Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you, Bob. See ya.